What the Heck is Happening in HR is thrilled to have David Gobeo join us. He is the office managing partner for FordHarrison's West Palm Beach office. He focuses his practice on the representation of management in a broad range of employment matters, including against claims of discrimination, harassment, and wage and hour violations. He went to the University of Florida College of Law and has his degree from Stetson University as well. He handles lawsuits involving Fair Labor Standards Act, age discrimination, family medical leave, all of our favorite ones, including Title VII of Civil Rights and the Florida Civil Rights Act. He has litigating non compete and trade secret matters. He represents clients in charges of discrimination before the EEOC and the Florida Commission on Human Relations, along with the host of other agencies. So we're thrilled to have him here on What the Heck is Happening in HR. For our podcast disclaimer, please visit the episode description. Thanks for coming back to What the Heck is Happening in HR. And today is David Gobeo to follow up on the segment where he introduced neurodiversity as part of the ADA coverage that we should be thinking about as HR professionals, as business owners, and how we make sure that we're not unintentionally discriminating when we don't even realize that that's what we're doing or that's what we're even seeing. So, David, thanks so much for being here and welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks. So, tell me about what employers can do. And so, I'm thinking of the workplace as a whole. So, if I have a new employee and as an employer, what can I do to support them?
Yeah, there's absolutely a number of things that businesses can do to support a neurodiverse workplace. And let me start by saying they absolutely should, especially in a job market like we have now where it's hard to find labor. This is a population that has excellent retention rates in their businesses, low absenteeism, just certain skills, attention to detail, thinking outside the box, things that really benefit businesses. And so there's definitely a business incentive to recruit, retain neurodiverse workforce. But yeah, in terms of accommodating them in the workplace, depending on which particular condition they have, that may be providing a quiet workspace with little stimulation, if that's an issue for the individual. Not requiring attendance at a social event, right? Making that optional for the employee. Providing additional instructions. Maybe they need instructions in writing as opposed to verbal, something in email. It could be putting them in a different position or assigning them a workplace coach to help them get through certain interpersonal skills. But there's definitely a number of avenues available to try to accommodate people.
So I'm thinking, we have this hybridness. Is that a word even? Hybrid workplace anymore, where some people come in the office and some people aren't. And let's say we've hired somebody and they have some certain peculiar to other people, peculiar things that happen. I don't know, all the pens are lined up, or they leave their office, their desk a certain way, whatever that might be. And then we have people who kind of come in only once in a while into the office and they're unaware of that. So as a coworker, I might be like, well, what's the big deal? I mean, I had to grab a pen. So how do we make sure there's civility and there's understanding and there's empathy and there is an actual reach out as a coworker? How do we do that and how does the employer support that? What have you seen?
That can be a tough line to walk because on the one hand, you can't disclose somebody's confidential medical information. You can't say you have to do this because John has XYZ. But what I've seen businesses do that I think is successful is training. I think training, whether management training, supervisor training, or just general employee training is required in some circumstances, but it's certainly beneficial in all areas. But in this area in particular, you can say, you can increase the awareness of your workforce by going over these issues. And I mean, sometimes you do it in the context of a physical disability, like you were saying. You can't always see, somebody in a wheelchair. Somebody may have a sensitivity to smell, for example. And so rather than saying, Mary doesn't like when people wear perfume, you bring up this general concept and awareness. And so the same concept would apply to neurodiversity as well.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And tell me how, if I unfortunately, people can be cruel, and there don't have to be 5-year-olds to be cruel when they say things, but they could be saying things like, "That person just looks at me strange, and they're doing it all the time. This must be what they have." How if I walk up on that as a manager or supervisor, what do I say?
Well, I will say there's two parts there, right? If they say that the first part, they're being mean. If they say the second part, now they are crossing the line into um, conduct that's related to a protected category. So if they say, well, I think this person has, Asperger's or whatever it is, that's probably a violation of the company's EEO policy. The person should probably be counseled, whether verbally or, whatever stage they're at. But I'll tell you, if it's just the first part, if they're saying, I don't like the way this person looks at me, it's not illegal to be a jerk. But companies that have jerks get more lawsuits than companies that don't. So that's another aspect where training can help increase civility and understanding in the workplace. Just it goes a long way to protecting our company's bottom line from having to hire people like me to defend them.
Yeah, and I do think that there is that, opportunity to do proactive training, not waiting till you hire somebody, and then everybody goes, "Oh, we're having to do this because that person joined us."
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Because then A causes B, and they look at that and go, "Well, this must be the issue," and so now we've all gotta walk on eggshells or whatever it might be around them. I have found I have a friend of mine who is on the spectrum, and he found a position through a special program as an accountant, and he has his master's in accounting, and, he is focusing on a very specific set of tax returns and working with those clients, and he has just thrived, where previously he was really struggling keeping a position anywhere. And yet he has just done great working on these details with specific clients, and they just love him. And the clients love him, the business loves him, and he loves his job. And it really just brings joy to my heart.
Yeah, that's excellent. Putting finding somebody's talent and putting it to its best use is the things that businesses should be focused on. And there's an opportunity here where they can do that.
So things like this are a great resource, David. Where else can they go to find out more about neurodiversity in the workplace? Where can we find out more about that?
So yeah, I mean, there's a number of resources online. I'm aware there's some schools that focus on this and have some resources. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, they have some guidance on their website, and that's usually a good place to start for some greater understanding of it.
And probably ask Jan, right? The Job Accommodation Network that probably has some um, at least tips around accommodation that might help.
I'm glad you said that. I've heard that's one of the best resources. I've looked there myself.
Yeah, I
And
I I used that, like, years ago, and it was, like, 1 page, and now it's just enormously resourceful.
yeah, yeah. And I'll also make a pitch for myself. An employment attorney can absolutely provide some guidance. I know human resources professionals have knowledge of this area and can provide some professional guidance as well.
Yeah, I hope that you get to have, um, an opportunity to speak on this at some of those HR, conferences and those things that are kind of out there, because I just think that there's, a need for HR people to become more aware of it, of what their responsibility is to serve as that facilitator to the workplace and facilitator to the management in order to help keep these employees who do have amazing retention levels.
Yes, I think you're exactly right on that.
So, thanks so much for joining us and educating us today, David. We really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.